Call the names. Wake the room. Wake the room. Hello, you! Rex! Pam Ray! Naomi! Afastiana! Babbler! Monarch Soul! Jojo! Gray eyes! Fill my eyes! Poets assemble. No masks, no manners. Say it plain or say it broken. Monday night in the garden of enlightenment. Low light lit minds, every line got intent. Clock ticks crooked and the room turns vigilant. Quiet so loud you can hear what the tension meant. Then it slips after midnight, manners get murdered. Nice little masks get cracked by a word or a murmur. Twisted Tuesdays twist truth till it turns on its heel. Clean cut faces go strange when the dark gets real. You can feel that shift, that slick little slip when the grin stays sweet but the eyes don't sit. Like the room grew ribs, like the walls grew ears, like the hush got hands and it's pulling you near. And the words don't rest, they press, put a heel on the chest, leave a dent in the breath. Every line like a knock from the back of the brain, like you came in one shape. You won't leave the same. Late night poets, where the room leans in, where the sharp gets shown and the soft door dim. To the pull you can't ignore. We don't just read the night, we make it something more. Say it plain, say it broken. Late night poets. Wednesday breaks parts and apart, sink down the spine, half halo, half hazard, both hands in the light. Then the art of seduction walks off through the smoke. Silk on the tongue with the blade in the joke books and bards, wakes dust in the depth of the shelves. Old ghosts lean out and start naming themselves in our coffins, selling art. The eight gets a voice, pain stands up straight and makes silence a choice. Then break on through when the dead boogies wave, when the masses sink but the pulses pray. Echoes in the dark go hunting in the fear, that thing with no name starts ringing your ear. Say it. Tongue water it down, let it bite, let it bloom, let it burn through the crowd. That company grins like a bruise, dressed smart in rhythm and rhyme, puts a boot through the heart. Late night poets, where the room leans in, where the sharp gets shown and the soft door dim. Late night poets, hear the whole thing shift. From a whisper in the ribs to a line that lifts, from the darkened edge of doubt to the pull you can't ignore. We don't just read the night, we make it something more. Say it plain, say it broken. Late night poets. Some come shattered, some come slick, some speak honey with a blade in it. Some sound velvet, some sound wire. Some walk in low and take the room higher. Some come holy, some come liars. That's the thing, the same feeling for the dead space. No, there's a pulse with a pen, this is blood with the echo. This is breath with a backbone, ink with a crown, loud mics like nerves, truth laid bare in the round. This is the beautiful mess, the bruise and the bloom, the line that cuts clean and makes a little room. Late souls, wide eyes, all nerve in the dark, a room full of hearts beating hard through the dark. Wake the room, wake the room. something more. Late night poets. When the clock slips past polite, we tell the truth. L&P, we love you. Stay frosty.
Hello and welcome to After Midnight, where we walk past the edge of midnight and the mind becomes a playground, a vast universe, unique, free of the constraints born in preconceived theories, where your voice will be uncloaked and heard. I am Pam Ray. Right now, the regular host, Intimitus Rex, is away. And I have Babbler joining me. It is Babbler and I are poets on a website called All Poetry with a group of poets called Late Night Poets. If you find that this show is not your cup of tea, please check out our other shows. We have 1 to 2 shows per night on a variety of styles, of topics, and poetry, something to suit everybody's taste. Also, make sure when you get a chance to check out the poetry anthologies put out by Late Night Poets, because when you purchase those, you not only get amazing poetry, you help support these radio shows. And hello, Babbler. How's it going?
Hello, happy to be your irregular co-host for the night.
Yes. So happy we can be irregular together.
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Pam?
I am doing good. I am doing good. I'm so glad you could be here and joining me. I am looking forward to when Rex comes back, but it's going to be fun, definitely, to hang out with you because we don't get to do that often enough.
It's true. Used to be more frequent.
I'm usually the quiet in the background one. So, but no, it was like, oh my gosh, I was like about 10 o'clock in the evening and I realized, oh shoot, you know what? Rex always does the intros for After Midnight, so I'm not prepared. I have to go look it up, write it down, just so I'll have something to read.
I've been in that boat. Yeah.
Yes, it's like, and he doesn't like that is actually the original intro that he came up with, but that's not even what he says anymore. I could have gone and listened to the shows, but I feel like if I copied him exactly like what he says on the show, like hello my freaky darlings, or however he does it. Because apparently to me Rex and Elvis sound a lot alike,
I don't know. I could imagine a show that starts out with you calling people freaky darlings. It'd be an interesting show.
Right? There you go. Well, I know we have I see we have a couple listeners on YouTube. So always good to know people are listening in on YouTube. And let's see here. Oh, we have just me and you hanging out right now in StreamYard, which that is all right. And so not a big response for the contest that I ran, which is all right. I have between the contest entries that I got permission for and the a couple of extra ones. I think we have like 13 rights on the board. And but you know what? That's all right. We'll make it work. We'll make it work for sure. But the contest I ran was actually for people to be inspired by the poetry of Sasha Chorny. And I just, instead of putting like choosing which poems to put up, because on All Poetry, he only actually has like 7 poems on All Poetry on his page. I decided just to put a link to that. the thing with his name though, like his pen name, because that was not the name he was given at birth. Chorny is, I've seen it spelled mostly Chorny. I've also seen it spelled Chorni. And then on All Poetry, they have it spelled Cernyi. And for my contest, that's the spelling I went with, only because, well, I don't know. I figured if I'm providing the link to the All Poetry page, I might as well go with the same spelling. But so I don't know how many people actually know the poetry of Sasha Chorny. I do highly recommend reading it. He is, or was, because he was born October 1st, 1880 and died July 5th, 1932, was a poet, satirist, and children's author. His satire definitely shows through in his poetry, which means that you can definitely see that in people's responses tonight, that, as we read. He was actually born Alexander Mikhailovich Glickberg in I'm looking up here right now. Oh, in Odessa, Russian Empire, which is currently in the Ukraine. His apparently, like so many Russian/Ukrainian childhoods who, as well as being Jewish on top of that, there was, I don't know, it seems like these kind of authors, not just like Russian, but people who really fall into that dark humor, often it seems to stem from childhood. His mother suffered from bad nerves and fits of hysteria. His father would sadly often become violent. There were actually 5 children, and out of the 5 children, 2 of the boys were named Alexander and given the nickname Sasha. And to tell them apart, they became Sasha Belli, which means Sasha the White, because his brother had blonde hair and he had dark hair, so he was called Sasha Chorny. Now, why his parents didn't just think to give them different names, I'm not 100% sure. Probably kind of like, George Foreman and all his kids named George. I don't really know. But he actually, like I mentioned, him and his family were Jewish. And because at the time and where they lived, there was a limited amount of Jewish children that were allowed into the town school. Like they were at their cutoff number, and they're like, no, we're not accepting any more Jews. So his parents converted and had the children baptized in order that they could go to school. But he found school so boring, he left by the age of 15. I do think, I honest to goodness, think that anybody who hasn't read his poetry should. Some people might find it a little tacky, but I think, I honestly think that to me, one of the best things about his poetry is how it has an absolute bite to it. This here, I'm gonna read one small example. I'm not gonna put it up, but I do want to say this was one of my absolute favorite little brevities of his, and it is called, well, you know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and put it up, and because I just think this one is worth a read, and so it is called Two Senses, and it is by Sasha Chorny. Someone says, form? Nonsense. When shit is poured into crystal, does the glass become less pure? Another object's fool? If the best wine is poured into a chamber pot, it won't make people more likely to drink it. This dispute can't be resolved. Such a pity. Indeed, it is possible to pour shit into crystal. I just love that. What did you think, Babbler?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to, like, when you contextualize when he was alive, when Sasha Chorny was alive, this was particularly crass. You know,
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's crass even kind of by today's standards. But by that standard, it was even more so. And what is it with, just a side comment, what is it with satirists always being children's authors at the same time? I feel like there's a massive overlap.
Yeah. There does seem to be an overlap. Yeah, it's like the guy who wrote Where a Sidewalk Ends.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Shel Silverstein.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
exactly.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that I feel like when I hear, oh, they're a satirist, I just wait to hear, and they did children's.
Yes.
Like, but regarding this poem, you know, it's you know, it's a funny little argument, right? Like the when you pour shit into crystal, is the glass less pure? And it's like, well, I mean, there's not a lot of people drinking shit, right? So at that point, does the glass matter? Cool. It's like the glass half full argument, except with the added layer of like, well, what if the glass is made of something else? You know, if the best wine is poured into a chamber pot, they won't make people more likely to drink it. It's like, well, that's true. I would rather drink the wine out of the chamber pot, though, than the shit out of crystal. And that is what he's saying here. And that's what he's saying in this end line. You know, the dispute can't be resolved. Such a pity. Indeed, it is possible to pour shit into crystal. And he's talking about the argument and the people talking. He's essentially saying they have shit for brains. They may be high society and talking about philosophy, but there's not much going on upstairs. And I think he's talking about people and culture.
Yep. Yep. That is so true. That is so true. And yes, I actually read a review of one of his poems that said his poetry would make Baudelaire blush. And you know, but it is interesting. It is very interesting and funny about the correlation between satirists and you know, the children's. But yeah, I really like, to me, I like the straightforward style. To me, this felt like, almost because of the direct language and the swearing, almost, if he had added in, well, actually there is drinking, so it feels like the Bukowski of his time.
He does.
And you know what I mean, is the time and place. So yeah, I just absolutely had to share that one. And I figured, well, we have time, so, you know. All right.
My brain is just running through now all of the satirists that I can think of who also did children's
and to see if any of them weren't children's authors.
Right. You've got Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
You've got Oscar Wilde. You've got Lewis Carroll, Dr. Seuss. You know, Edward.
Oh, I didn't know Oscar Wilde was a children's author.
Yes, he wrote some things for children.
Oh, okay.
He wrote fairy tales for kids.
Ah, okay.
Yep. Mark Twain. Um,
Yep.
there's a lot. I don't understand why so much overlap, but there is overlap.
The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain was actually the first long book I ever read. Not that it was a real long book, but I mean, you know, like as a kid.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, just an interesting.
Yeah, that is. That is. And all right, so I'm gonna put up our first poem, and it is Inconvenience of the Madness by Time Teller. And go ahead, please, Babbler, and give that a read.
Absolutely. This is The Inconvenience of Madness. Over the garden flew geese, noisy formation of cooperation, as two buzzards circled the sky above, working together to find their food. Across the way, at the seaside, the travelers had arrived in convoys of caravans and motorhomes, all seemingly knowing their purpose, and with such efficiency, no one was able to stop them setting up camp. The tree across the way has swamped the telegraph pole. All the wires for broadband and landline phones to several houses now have intermittent functionality. Person after person to study the problem. Yet nothing is done, unlike the old days. What doesn't change is all the talk at 12 p.m. on a Wednesday. End poem.
Great read there, Babbler. And this is a great write by Time Teller. And he wrote to the poem Madness. And I'm not going to read every single one of the poems that were prompts. But people can always check out his Sasha Chorney's poetry on their own. But yeah, I like the imagery in this. I have to say, I get a big kick out of Time Teller's photo, which appears to be, well, you know, I'm certain it's a dead frog, but I'm just going to say it's a frog passed out drunk on his lawn because that makes me feel better. And yeah, you know, to me, this speaks on the idea, first of all, of the mess that is made when nature and technology kind of butt heads. And like it actually makes me think of, we actually had a telephone line that like went through the river water, and they ended up moving it, and it used to not be there, but the river just got high enough that that's where it went to. And you know, there's this kind of struggle of man versus nature. And it also makes me think of the idea of how people don't want to be inconvenienced. You know, we don't care what nature wants. We don't care what it needs. We need things to be as convenient as possible for us. We also need you to solve our problems for us and do it as quickly as possible. Now, I will say I'm not 100% sure what is significant about, if anything at all, or if it was just a random time and date chose about 12 p.m. on a Wednesday. You know, if it had been 6 p.m. on Monday, I would have been like, oh, the Monday night news, you know, but you know, 12 p.m. on a Wednesday, I don't know, maybe that's when the garbage gets taken out. My mind just keeps, and because it's the ending line, And maybe Time Teller will be able to share this with me. But because it's the ending line, I always put so much significance in it. And the idea of what does that time and date mean or day mean exactly, but really strong imagery. I did particularly like the second stanza, and I really like the bite in person after now have intermittent functionality, person after person, to study the problem, yet nothing is done, unlike the old days. There's a bite to that, because to me, you can take that in one of two ways. If you're the type of person who truly believed that everything was wonderful in the good old days, which it definitely had, I'm sure it's great points. But nostalgia does tend to blur our perspective. And it can be that idea of things were better the way we handled it in the past, but it can also be like that, to me, a very sarcastic bite of, we're just facing the same problems over and over again. We're just not willing to admit that we've faced them in the past and have yet to solve them. But excellent write and very well done. And your thoughts, Babbler?
Yeah, well, I think for me, the first thing I noticed is that there's really like no punctuation in this poem. It's all done via spacing. There's not a single dot of any kind. Oh, there's one apostrophe. There is an apostrophe at the end. In doesn't. But other than that, there's not any punctuation, which I thought was interesting because it made it kind of rambly feeling and almost a little rushed, which I thought was an interesting choice. It's not difficult to parse, but it's, a little run-on-y. When I saw this, like the inconvenience of the madness, I thought was interesting for a title, because I think madness maybe here has dual meaning, the anger, but also the craziness, the little bit of insanity. You've got all these birds showing up, and yet I feel like that too also has a double meaning. You've got over the garden flew geese, noisy formation of cooperation as two buzzards circled the sky. So we've got three different types of birds here. Well, two types of birds. But then you've got these seaside travelers that are arriving in convoys of caravans and motorhomes, which are just like the birds. So you've got like the gaggle of birds and then the gaggle of people. These are visitors from out of town. And I kind of get the hint here based on unlike the old days and stuff, these are like traveling retirees that are like here for the summer. They're people vacationing, all seemingly knowing their purpose with such efficiency, no one was able to stop them setting up camp. Like, maybe they're not even supposed to camp there. Like, it's not even a campground. It's just a whole bunch of people in caravans, deciding this is it. Not understanding that they're like being an inconvenience. Much like Canadian geese, which are not fun. You can always tell when someone's not local because they're like, "Oh, look at the geese," and it's like, "Oh god."
Oh my god!
The locals do not like the Canadian geese. Okay, they're loud, they poop everywhere, and they're aggressive. Okay, like nobody likes them.
That is so true.
They will chase down small children. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so that's what I picture is like the annoying geese. We now have this flock of vacationing retirees, and so they've swamped the area, and so now all the birds that normally would be in this field have been displaced onto this telegraph pole, and it's interrupting all the wireless stuff, the landline phones, the broadband, is now going out for people in the neighborhood, and everyone's commenting on it. Nothing gets done, unlike the old days, and yet nothing is really needed to be done. Like, you are the inconvenience. But not really seeing that you caused this problem, not understanding the impact that you have when you come into an area that's maybe not designed for that. And then also, it's like talking about how things were different in your day or whatever, followed by what doesn't change is all the talk at 12 p.m. on a Wednesday, meaning they're out there, squawking, but they're not really doing anything about it either. So, like, the propensity to gather and complain has not changed either. That's a holdover from the old days. Is kind of how I read that. The sure are willing to complain about it, but not do anything. And to me, to me, this is a satire about people's lack of awareness of the impact that they have. So it's like, you caused the problem. Now you're sitting here complaining about it, but not contributing to fix it. You just expect other people to fix it. So you're inconvenienced by the madness that you caused. And your anger is also kind of caused by you. So that's
I like
my
that.
take.
I like that. I think that's a great take there. I like how you mentioned the idea of kind of like the idea of tourists, people who are just and people who are just so socially unaware, and also that you pointed out the three different kind of birds, because for some reason that didn't even click in my head. And it just so happened today I was listening to this really interesting video, that there's this YouTube channel called The Resurrectionists, and a lot of what they do is go through like old either fairy tales or nursery rhymes. And today I was listening to one on who killed Cock Robin, and it was going through, not only the different theories of who or what Cock Robin represented, but also the other birds, and what they potentially represented. And it was really interesting, but it made me, your comment made me go back to that, because it then made me think of how birds have been used throughout history, and particularly in the Victorian time period, for a lot of symbolism. So very cool comment. I also realized that you're used to doing a show with Aphasiana, and since it's just the two of us, I don't have to say, and your thoughts, babbler. You can just.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to, you can, but I will generally take the cue of you having finished your comment or reading.
Yeah, you pretty much, I think, will know when I'm finished, because I tend to finish the same way. But yep. So I've gone ahead and I've put up Smart Words by Peter Solway. East to west, sunrise, sunset. Obese globe determined never to speed up. How quickly a good day went. Lying bitch. Marxist progress. Slow grind of gulag night. Gaia to put the orbiting brakes on. Clever thinkers to freeze to death. Nietzsche with sisters mean charity. Sunrise of white corpse deaf. Smart verse of little help. Time, space, directionless. Once rhymes meaningful, now laments superficial eulogies. Futile, useless as a sunken fish. End poem.
Well, great read. This is an interesting piece. I think this is a good contest topic for Peter, honestly. I think it's an invitation for him to do what he does well, which is kind of a satirical and critiquing undertone societally in his pieces. To me, I think this one is almost like a scolding of time. for seeming to go so quickly when things are good and so slowly when things are bad. You know, east to west, sunrise, sunset, obese globe determined to never speed up. So uh, the time is theoretically going the same speed, but how quickly a day went, lying bitch. Like you said, you'd just be the same every day, but this is just not true. Like Marxist progress, slow grind of gulag night. Guy had to put the orbiting brakes on. So, like, my good day went super fast, and then when things are a grind, and I'm having to work, the day just goes super slow. Progress here is, sarcasm. This march towards a better society is being compared to the endless night of a gulag. So pleasure goes by quickly and misery just grinds and grinds and goes super slow. And so that's kind of the first stanza. And then in the second one, it's kind of talking about how, like, understanding these things and being, like, intelligent doesn't really, like, save you from any of this. You know, clever clever thinkers to freeze to death. Meaning, like, you can sit there and think all you want, but it doesn't do anything. Just thinking doesn't do anything. you know um Nietzsche with sisters mean charity, sunrise of white corpse death is, like, Nietzsche, when he was, nearing the end of his life, was cared for by his sister. And while she was caring for him, she kind of, like, redid his writings and manipulated what he was saying, in ways that, like, impacted his reputation, and he couldn't really do anything about it because he was, helpless. He was, like, unresponsive. So to me, that's just saying, like, being intelligent doesn't save you from, like, dying or being incapacitated or other people warping what you're trying to say. Sharp little words don't impact things. And he doesn't just apply that to philosophy. He applies that even to himself. In the poem Cynic Heart's critiquing itself. You know, rhymes meaningful, now lament superficial, eulogies futile. Smart verbal. Like, here I am writing a poem, but it's still not impacting anything either. And then you get to that very last line, which, is like sunken fish. Useless as a sunken fish, which is funny because all fish, well, most fish are underwater. Living fishes are underwater. Functional fishes are underwater. And to me, I guess, I'm not Peter, obviously, but my kind of takeaway from this is, like, yeah, work is a grind, joy goes by fast, and misery seems to last a super long time. And if everyone only did thinking and writing about things, we wouldn't get anywhere. But you still need them. You still need the thinkers and you need the writers. Otherwise, the people on the grind don't have anything to do. There is no march of progress if no one has said what progress is. You need someone to point the way. But you can't only have those people.
Absolutely.
So you need the sunken fish. Fish out of water is not any good. Well, it's good for eating, not so great for thinking. What were your thoughts?
Well, I really like this, and I have to agree with you that it definitely is a type of contest and prompts that are, like, right up Peter's alley, because he certainly does do satire very well. I have to say, as far as the sunken fish, I feel like it was such a juxtaposition that I can't help but wonder again, the wondering, is there some sort of saying about sunken fish, or you know what I mean? He just has these way of coming up with things that seem obscure, and then you find out later they actually had some sort of meaning to them. That was very sad to learn about Nietzsche and his sister. I did not know that. Huh. It's sad the way and people will take advantage. But this is very strong and visceral. I like how it takes a look at the ugliness of society throughout the world. East to west, sunrise to sunset, obese globe determined never to speed up. Like we're weighed down. We're weighed down by greed and appetites, not just an appetite of a physical nature, but also just appetites to have everything bigger and better. I also really like Gaia to put the orbiting brakes on. The idea that Mother Nature is just getting really sick and tired of all this shit. And I really like what you had to say about how we need all different types of people, because that second part did have me thinking about how you'll hear jokes about, how useless a degree in philosophy is. And it is not a degree that one would get, and go out and maybe immediately get a job, unless it was going to be as a philosophy teacher. It seems like there's this kind of cycle to getting a philosophy degree, is that you get the degree, you go teach philosophy, so other people get the degree, but then they go and teach philosophy, and it just is. But it's true, we do need people who are willing to be poets, who are willing to be philosophers and thinkers, but we also need the people who are willing to actually get things done. The useless as a sunken fish. That's such an attention grabbing line. And, I have to say, I have to say by personifying a good day by calling it a lying bitch is how quickly a good day went. Lying bitch, is to me just absolutely one of the best ways to personify a good day that went too quickly, and you realize that, damn it, but like smart words. The title too, I have to say, and I know I'm jumping around, but I'm processing, and sometimes I jump around when I process. Makes me think of like smartphones, or it makes me think of the idea of sometimes what people will do is they will use big words intentionally in order to make themselves appear more intelligent than they actually are. Also, is rhyme spelled correctly? Or it just looks weird.
It has an N in it, and it shouldn't.
It's okay, that's what I thought. And that makes me wonder about that too, because we all know, because we've read through and commented on Pierre's poetry over the years enough on various shows that we know so oftentimes he will purposely spell something wrong to allude to something else. And so that has me very inquisitive also. But yeah, the idea of people who do nothing but sit around thinking, but aren't willing to put action towards their work. Basically, it's just the idea of them sinking below those thoughts, into that sense of uselessness. I do have to say that this poem, and talking about this poem, actually made me think of a story my stepfather told me of when him and his brother went out with their father and a friend of their father's, out fishing on a boat, and the boat got a hole in it and started sinking. And they grew up Christian, and so very Christian family. But his father, my stepfather's father, was just so much more practical, because the boys, he was paddling, the boys were taking the buckets and getting the water out of the boat, and the friend dropped down to his knees and started praying for God to save them. And
Okay. Well,
yes, and my stepfather said, "Get the bleep up, you can pray when we get to dry land. Pick up a bucket and start throwing the water out." Or I think it was pick up an oar and start paddling. You can pray when we get to dry ground.
God works in mysterious ways, and sometimes it's picking up the paddle yourself.
Exactly. And I am one of those that I very much believe in the importance of prayer, but there are times when it's just, yes, it is not the time to pray, especially because it wasn't like they were in the middle of the ocean or something. I mean, they were in a lake in Iowa.
Yeah.
And, so it wasn't like, it wasn't even like one of the Great Lakes. It was like...
I take it you like swimming.
But yes, exactly. In which case, if you really like to swim, instead of kneeling there praying, just dive overboard and swim to land. Oh my gosh, I tell you, always great to read Peter Solway. That is for sure.
As I was reading this too, and I started to think about sunken fish, it made me think of a poem that Ben Hart wrote about whale falls. And I mean, I knew about whale falls as like a biology person, but especially working in fisheries. But like, a whale fall, so the bottom of the ocean doesn't really get any light, right? And theoretically, it doesn't have a lot of nutrients. And the reason I say theoretically is because we've explored less than 3% of the ocean. So we make a lot of conjectures about what's going on down there when we really have no idea. But theoretically, there's not a whole lot of nutrients or things like that down there. So when a whale dies, it falls to the seafloor, and it feeds an entire ecosystem down there, which has cascading effects across the whole ocean. So it's interesting to think about it in this context, right? Where like an intelligent person giving out ideas is like a sunken fish. Be interesting to think about that in the context of a whale fall.
It is. And then that has me thinking maybe the whole uselessness is the fact of intelligent people giving out ideas to stupid people.
Yes.
Who aren't gonna,
They're not gonna do anything with it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool story,
Don't give
bro.
advice to stupid people. They want to be stupid.
They don't know anything else. Anyway.
I see you've put up the next poem, if you want to give that a read.
Yes, this is The Immortality Clause by Naomi Sarah. And it goes like this. Immortality? You want that too? After everything you've done with Tuesday? You two-legged accidents with your leaking roofs, your bad knees, your unpaid bills, your little wars over who gets to sit closest to the window. You've decided death is unfair. Of course it is. Everything is unfair when the universe refuses to make an exception for you. You want forever because 80 years wasn't enough time to become someone you could stand. So let's give it to you. No coffin, no grave, no merciful little darkness closing its mouth. You can keep the body. Keep the arthritis, keep the cholesterol, keep the scar on your knee from 1974. Keep the face that will age will no keep the face that age will no longer excuse. Keep your ex-wife's number. Keep the photograph of the son who stopped calling. Keep the house you spent 30 years trying to escape. Keep everything, especially memory. You wanted eternity. You should have had read the fine print. You will watch everybody you love disappear. The dog, the children, their children, the city, the language, the names of streets that once meant something. You will become the oldest joke alive, wandering through museums where your own century has been reduced to a paragraph beneath cracked glass. And when they ask you what it was like to be human, you will open your mouth and discover you have forgotten. That is the beautiful part. Forever doesn't make you immortal. It makes you obsolete. So go ahead. Sign here. Initial beside the clause about loneliness. Ignore the part about everyone you know becoming dust. You always were good at skipping the uncomfortable lines. Then step through the door. We'll keep it open. For eternity. End poem.
Great read, Babbler. I have to say that this one is such a wonderful take on the chosen prompt. The bite that Naomi puts into this is absolutely, it just grips hard. It's hard hitting. It addresses what I've read before about, how the idea of immortality, like an actual physical immortality. And we're not talking spiritual, but to be, it's basically like these people that wish to live forever. It's like, have you ever watched a zombie movie in your life? But immortality, you want that too. After everything you've done with Tuesday, what was Tuesday named after? Like, I know Thursday comes from Thor's Day and Friday comes from Freya's Day. Where did the word Tuesday come from? That is the question stuck in my head. Do you know, Babbler?
Yeah, so
that's something.
Tuesday's a weirdo because it's not from Norse. Tuesday comes from Middle English. So it's
meaning the day nobody knew what to do with.
Well, I guess it's from Tyr, the god of combat. So I guess it is kind of Norse. I'm just looking it up because it was like, I know that it's Middle English and not Norse like some of the others, but it still goes back, interestingly, back to Norse mythology, to Tyr, the god of single combat, law, and justice. He's like the Norse equivalent of Mars.
That is interesting.
Oh, it's the Norse equivalent of Mars, and I wonder that's why, like, in Spanish, it's Martes. Anyway, just random thought.
That would make sense. Yeah. And I'm trying to think. I was trying to think what Tuesday is in German, and that's for some reason I know it starts with a D, but I just can't remember it. But that's all right. I'm kind of going off on these little obscure. Oh, what's that?
It's Dienstag.
That's it. Yes. 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 And yeah, I like how she starts with the questions being asked, and it feels like it's being asked in the voice of a higher power that is looking down at humanity, you know, and saying, really, like, out of after what you've done with what I've given you, whether it's a higher power or it's Mother Nature or who knows, maybe even aliens, whatever it is, this is someone or something who has observed what humanity has done with the gifts that they have been given. And, I mean, this honestly could even be the deal made with the devil that you're going to regret. I thought this had great use of spacing, and I also really like where this is the idea of the argument you wish you hadn't won. Go ahead, take your immortality, have it, but along with that, you get everything else that is a part of life, the loneliness, the scars, and the memory. You hold on to it all. You'll watch love disappear. You will watch everybody you love disappear: the dog, the children, their children, the city, the language, the names of streets that once meant something. The mention of the language is interesting because it makes me think of the Tower of Babel, but almost like a reverse thing. Like, instead of language developing, it dies off. And which actually, to me, if you connect it with the fact of how little, as we get more and more into technology and being online, and I realize it hasn't gotten this bad yet, but it sometimes feels like we don't talk to each other as much as we used to. So I feel like that part there, on the mention of the disappearance of language, speaks on the idea of how we don't verbally talk to each other enough. I also like how there's that whole idea of, just don't look at the clause initial beside the clause about loneliness. Ignore the part about everyone becoming dust. You always were good at skipping the uncomfortable lines. We only want the comfortable truth, or as they say, we'd rather have comfortable lies than an uncomfortable truth. This is definitely a powerful write by Naomi, and very well done.
Yeah, I agree. This is a great piece. I really liked some of what you were saying too about how just skipping all of the bad parts, right? Like, I want to live forever. Do you? Have you really thought about that? You've wasted so much time already, that you really just want to waste all the time. You're not doing well in the time frame you're in. Two-legged accidents, leaking roofs, bad knees, unpaid bills, bickering about who gets to sit next to the window. Like, that's how you're spending the short time you have. And you want more time? Um, I think when people think, oh, I want to live forever, right? They want to be like 25 forever. They don't want to keep aging forever. If you're going to keep aging, you can keep the body, the arthritis, the cholesterol, the scar on your knee. If that's the case, I'm not sure how long I actually want to be around. I am pushing 40 and my knee already hurts, and I sleep wrong and my back hurts. And then I look at like my grandmother who's got like rheumatoid arthritis and standing up hurts. And I'm just like, being 140, you know, like, if you're not going to take the aging away, that sounds terrible. You know, if I'm going to continue to age, then literally you are going to be a zombie at some point. You're literally going to be like flesh rotting off of a body, because cells don't work that way. DNA doesn't work that way. Replication doesn't work that way. Like, aging is a thing that happens. You know, so it's like you just want, what you really want is to be young forever. And be young with all the people that you have forever. What you really want is for things not to change. But that's just not how things work. I think about my grandma, who lived to be my great grandmother, who lived to be 104 years old, and she, buried every one of her children. And it wasn't like they died young. It's just that she outlived them all.
Oh,
and
wow.
I don't think people are meant to do that. That was really hard for her. And then she spent the last few years of her life basically just waiting to die, and would tell people that. She would wake up in the morning and get dressed really nice and hope that today was the day. So.
And that's completely understandable.
Yeah, and that's at 104. So people don't want to be that old. Like,
Exactly.
Talk to her, and she was completely cogent. So she would just tell you, well, I've outlived all my kids. My grandkids are all adults. They, my great grandkids don't really know me. All of my friends are gone. All of the people I knew were gone. She's like, I'm just slowly dying in the corner. So, and I think that's kind of what this is getting at, is that kind of experience. It's not what you think it's going to be. It's not like you're going to go and achieve great things because you've been given more time. Sometimes you're only meant here to be here for a certain length of time. Yeah. It also makes me think of, I remember one time talking to a friend who we were talking about if we had more hours in a day. And he was just like, I wish I had more hours in a day. And I'm like, I don't. And he's like, why not? And I was like, because I'm just going to end up working. If there were 28 hours in a day, they're just going to add it to your work shift. You're not just going to get 4 more hours of free time.
Right? Oh my gosh, that is a really good point.
I don't want to be here for another 4 hours every day. I know better than to think it's going to be time off or time spent sleeping. First chance that any kind of economy gets in, that there's more time in a day, it just left. So, anyway.
Yeah, that is so true. Well, I'm such a procrastinator that even if I did have more time in the day, I'd still procrastinate.
Right? 4 more hours a day to waste. If I really wanted to read a book every day, I would. I just don't prioritize it. So, anyway.
Yeah.
I thought this was a lovely write from Naomi. Nice and biting. And yeah, like, did you really think about this? It's like a poorly made wish to a genie. You don't know what you're asking for.
Yep. Oh, exactly. I can hear that in Robin Williams' voice. So, but yeah, I don't know. I even feel the same way about people who want to go back to their younger years. Like, I will say honestly, at this point, being at 52 years old, the only reason I want to go back to my 20s is because I want the physical strength and lack of pain that I had in my 20s. Everything else, I do not want to go back to my childhood. I do not want to go back through my 20s, because going back that far means most likely going through the same shit over again. And
Right?
I just don't want that. I'd like to stick to who I am now, where my life is now, minus the physical pain.
Right?
So
Yeah. I read this thing the other day that was like, if you woke up tomorrow, it was 1996, and I'm like, oh God, no! I'm like 9 years old. This is a bad time. I don't want to do all that again.
Oh my goodness, 1996. I'm pretty sure that was one of my big drinking years. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll put up the next poem, which is Nothing Like the Sun by Ken Smith. Shall I compare it to my favorite cafe? After all, it's online advertising hype. Much of it exaggerated tripe. A rich cafe nestled in the countryside. At its gravel entrance, my eyes thrown open wide, I saw but a coffee shack in a wild bush, a crude country cafeteria encased in weeds of hysteria. End poem.
Nice read. And this is a fun little brevity. Shall I compare it to my favorite cafe? It feels very much like a comparison to Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Which was a love poem, but obviously this quite quickly changes. And so they go out to this cafe to see if it is living up to its advertising hype. Like, is it like their favorite? All its online advertising hype. And quickly it's a no. Much of it exaggerated tripe. So it's all just like they're overselling themselves. A rich cafe nestled in the countryside. Well, that sounds lovely. But apparently it's a coffee shack in a wild bush. It's it's just this little rinky-dink place in like this unkept land. And they've really painted this as this lovely picture, but it's just not. A crude country cafeteria encased in weeds of hysteria, which I think is funny because I want to read that as wisteria, but it's not. It's hysteria. Craziness. Like it's dressed up to be something that it's not. Which then makes me think of a couple different other things. It makes me think of, I can't remember now. There was this person who wanted to be the #1 restaurant on Yelp. And they thought that they could do it without ever actually running a restaurant. And they did. They proved that they could. They paid people to write reviews for them. They took fake photos of food, made fake menus, made a fake website. The restaurant did not exist. It was not a real place. They said they were by reservation only. People would call to make reservations, and he'd say they were completely booked out for like the whole year. And he made it to like #1 without ever having actually run a restaurant at all. He did eventually kind of open a restaurant because he turned his shed literally into a restaurant. I mean, I think the name of the restaurant even was like the Shed at something. And he literally just served like microwave mac and cheese on a plate outside his garden shed. Anyway, it's just kind of the way advertising can really let you like hype things up to be nothing like they actually are, to sell you something that is just like really almost as close to false as it can be. Working in the food manufacturing industry, I run into this rather frequently, and I laugh sometimes because I always joke when I read stuff like made with real beef. I'm like, that doesn't mean of real beef. There was just some beef there. made with real juice. Okay, but it's 1% real juice and 99% from concentrate. Like they really skirt things in advertising quite a bit in ways that I don't think are quite right, but that's how the law is written. Like free range, eggs from free range hens, and you go there and it's just thousands of chickens packed in a barn in like a 3 square foot fenced area that none of them can even get to. So that's what makes me think of is like the way things get pumped up to be something that they're not. Don't trust the advertising necessarily. You can't even really trust reviews either sometimes. So, nothing like the sun. Just kind of completely falsified information. So I thought this was interesting, right? It was lovely. It was satirical, a little biting, little tongue-in-cheek. I love the little nod to Shakespeare in the beginning. I love the use of the word hysteria at the end. But yeah, just the disillusionment of following a restaurant from an ad. I feel bad for the restaurant in this photo.
Right? Well, and the thing is, it's like probably might actually be a great place.
Yeah.
But
we didn't even get to the food.
I know.
Great.
The only thing mentioned as food-wise is tripe, which doesn't sound very...
And somehow I don't think they serve that.
No, probably not. Probably not. Although if they did, they would find some way to make it like and make it part of the experience and have people pay extra,
Yes.
just for the unique experience of eating the stomach lining of cows or whatever animal.
Yes, get your morning menudo.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Yeah, that is a great observation. I did not know that about that guy on, what is it called? Yelp?
Yeah, I think it was Yelp.
Yeah,
It was
that's
that, or it was like
crazy.
TripAdvisor or something. It was a super interesting documentary.
Okay, yeah. But I've seen comedians make jokes about like those review sites, and like this one comedian I was watching I can't remember their name, but it was basically along the lines of the best reviews to read are like the 1-star ones, because then you get to find out exactly how crazy people went. But yeah, I like the wordplay in this, and I too immediately thought of Romeo and Juliet and Shakespeare. Shall I compare it to my favorite cafe? Should I, like the idea of trying, and it also makes me think of the idea of trying to explain your favorite place to go hang out to people, like my daughters, my daughter, my son, and my daughter's roommate all love to go to this bar that the people there are really nice, but it's just basically like your typical small town bar with very minimal food, and the food is not fabulous, but they love it. They love hanging out there. And, I feel like if we were to take, and I like going there too. I haven't been there as often as they have, but it's fun. It's, they got the pool table, they've got the dart machine, they've got the greasy pizza and the cold beer, but trying to like bringing somebody there, like from out of town, would be like, come have the authentic small town Wisconsin experience. You know?
Well,
And,
it makes me laugh too because I was just in Alaska for the summer, and I was in this really tiny little town when I was on land. I was on a barge for most of it, but when I was on land, I was in this little itty bitty town, and I get there and everyone's excited. And they're like, "We need to go out for food," and I'm like, "Oh, where do you go for food?" They go to the hospital.
they
'Cause yeah, and I'm like, "Oh," and they're like, "No, the hospital food's really good, like, and it's so good prices, and it's delicious," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." We go to the hospital, it's
Well,
just hospital food.
oh my gosh.
It's
Well,
just
that just
hospital food.
shows you like how appetites work. Like if you're
Right?
hungry, anything seems really good.
Right? Well, at the end, you gotta remember these remote areas in Alaska, they don't get a lot of food in, right? So, this is a lot of food that they don't get to normally eat. Whereas
Oh,
for me,
that's
this is like a really bland hamburger.
yeah.
Like, then it's like, oh, and we're gonna take you to the dump. I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you gotta see the dump. And I'm like, we're gonna go to the dump? Yeah, well, all the bears, the grizzly bears, go to the dump. And so you stand on this hill and you literally like watch all the bears in the dump. And those are the two big attractions: is the dump and the hospital cafeteria.
You know, that actually does sound very similar to small town Wisconsin, I have to say. Though I will say the idea of being anywhere near grizzly bears makes me nervous. And
Mm,
I don't get nervous around black bears because,
they're not that
for
big,
the
and they
most part,
run
they
off.
tend to, yeah, they just run off. You make some noise and they run off. They avoid you as much as possible, but I don't know. Of course, it could be just because I don't live near any grizzly bears, but it just seems to me like, from what I've heard, they're a little bit more aggressive. Um, but isn't that funny? I remember, as far as hospital food goes, that when I was pregnant with my second born, I just had this absolute craving. The cafeteria that the was near in the hospital had this turkey, and it was like turkey, sliced tomato, Swiss cheese, sourdough, and sandwich, and it was so freaking good. I pretty much had it every single doctor's appointment.
Gotta get that hospital food. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And now I wonder if I went back there with not having the pregnancy
Oh.
cravings, if I probably would not think it was as good. But it was funny because my second born was my biggest child. He was 21 inches long and 9 pounds, 12 ounces. And I took him to his 1 week appointment, and I stopped by the cafeteria and did not order the turkey sandwich. I decided to get something different. I was probably tired of them after about 9 months of having them. And I was telling the waitress how big he was, and she goes, "Oh, it must have been all those turkey sandwiches." Now that's when you know you've eaten a lot of the same food.
That's funny. Well, my
But
mom ate
yeah,
so
I think.
much. When my mom was pregnant with my brother, she ate so much Wendy's chili that they were gonna name him Wendy if he was a girl. She
Oh,
ate
that would have been
so much of
funny.
it.
So, what did his name end up being?
Bjorn.
Oh, okay, that's an unusual name.
Yeah, so my mom is Norwegian and his dad is Norwegian. So he's my half brother.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
his name is Bjorn. And part of it was a joke because my grandmother, who was from Norway, had one request, and that was that none of the babies' names had J's in them, so that she could say them because she couldn't say J's. And so
Oh, okay. So that
she
makes sense.
She named him
Oh,
Bjorn,
wow.
and it has a J in it, but it's also a Norwegian name, so she could say it.
Oh man, that's funny. That is funny. But yeah, I really thought this actually had some quite clever wordplay in it. And it does make have some great elements of what it's like when places get hyped up. Um, I know one place I hyped up in my mind was we got this fairly new restaurant that I finally went to like a couple months back with my daughter. It was this, what those kind of restaurants where they just combine different elements. I forget what it's called, but you know what I mean.
Fusion.
Fusion. Oh, big freaking disappointment. We paid twice 3 times as much for food that was just not exceptional. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And it was all because when you see the word fusion, it hypes things up. And here it's all about, the exaggeration. It's all about, that word of mouth that from people who haven't even tried it yet. And the thing is sometimes like I warned my daughter's roommate. My daughter warned her roommate, and he still insisted on going and trying it out himself because, well, that's what people have to do. They can't just take your word for it.
Well, that's what my mom always said to me as a kid was like, Brooke, you're lucky. You can learn from other people's mistakes. Other people can't. They have to learn from their own.
Yep, that is so true. So true. But excellent write by Ken Smith and very well done.
It's a good time. Or a bad time. I don't know. How's the food, Ken? No.
Right?
All right, I've posted the next one.
Right. So I see we've got the next poem up.
Yep, this is The Botanic Mystery by Lena61. I'll give it a read. We the people, divided, miming, mimicking divinity. Cultured, yet living like swine, calling ourselves special while pigs know enough to sink into mud and simply be. Act like hogs. We the chosen, mocking the choice until we surrender to the soul. What was written is only inscription, ink mistaken for spirit. Count the chapters. Count the rhythm. Listen to the rhyme. Animal Farm sounds the alarm. The ones dressed for war sleep beside loaded weapons in the barn. Your boots, your watch, your rage you dress up as demure. But when you engage, is your heart truly pure? False gods, tyranny, trauma. Fear becomes narrative. Shame, the siren. Blame, the chain. Egregore, a putrid choir, born from belief in a pious liar. But the truth is refreshing. Filter fog with fire. Frost so cold it burns a liar to dust. Take a quick look and admire before she bursts into 100 pieces of red-hot wire. I was still gnawing the lies we fed each other in our golden honey phase, but we both fell into the sticky trap, a trodden maze of mere bright rays catching fire, trapped for days. When the shock wears off, I sink the rock and tumble to the floor. I cradle rocks to my boat. The cradle rocks to my boat. The world is wild. Blues, baby. Don't regret the storm. Become the form. Look at the codex. The ghost pipe fits the code. Not greed. Intent. A language inside numbers and letters. DNA. Inside the tiny seed. After the flames regress, what do I see? A fungi? Wait. No. A ghost pipe. Fungus-like. A flower of life and death. Twilight tendrils drip green beneath her stem. In daylight, silver sheen, a parasite plant, a pharma tree, catfish clean. The plant stays silent, it dines for free. No chlorophyll, no green parts, just translucent art. Little silver white bells, bruised purple crimson. Touch her. Blood rushes to her crown. No pollination, no petals, no shade. Only roots in leaf litter. Mycelium beneath, way down. She steals a sip from her stalks, shoots webs like a spider, and glides. Sometimes it's okay to take the wild side. She's rooted, yet chooses when to sit or drive. And still, little silver bells where fairies ride. Top shelf canaries, yellow diamond pinky rings. I thought I paid the piper, but his ghost still shadows me, still seeking to become human, to become himself. Not a falsetto hymn, but a choice to find a voice that can combine 528, just beyond sea. End poem.
Great read, Babbler. Oh, this one is, oh, shit. Damn it. Oops, sorry. Okay, we're actually going to, you did a wonderful read. I am so absolutely sorry, but we are going to have to listen to this one again because Lena was nice enough to supply us with an audio, and I would feel so bad if we didn't hear this in her voice.
That's fine.
That is completely my fault for forgetting to speak up and say, oh, by the way.
Whoops.
So okay, I'm going to go hit play, and here we go.
We the people
Okay, let me try that again.
divided, miming, mimicking divinity. Cultured, yeah, living like swine, calling ourselves special. While pigs know enough to sink into mud and simply be, act like hogs. Act like hogs. We the chosen, mocking the choice until we surrender to the soul. What was written is only inscription, ink mistaken for spirit. Count the chapters, count the rhythm, listen to the rhyme. Animal Farm sounds the alarm. The ones dressed for war sleep beside loaded weapons in the barn. Your boots, your watch, your age, you dress up as demure. But when you engage, is your heart truly pure? False gods, tyranny, trauma, fear becomes narrative, shame. The siren blame, the chain, egregore, a putrid choir, born from belief in a pious liar. But truth is refreshing, filter fog with fire, frost so cold it burns a liar to dust. Take a quick look and admire before she bursts into 100 pieces of red hot wire. I was still knowing the lies we fed each other in our golden honey phase, but we both fell into the sticky trap, a trodden maze, a mirror bright rays catching fire, trapped for days. When the shock wears off, I sink the rock and tumble to the floor. The cradle rocks my boat, the world is wild. Blues, baby, don't regret the storm, become the form. Look at the codex, the ghost pipe fits the code. Not greed, intent, a language inside numbers and letters, DNA inside the tiny seed. After the flames regress, what do I see? A fungi? Wait, no, a ghost pipe. Fungus like a flower of life and death. Twilight tendrils drip green beneath her stem. In daylight, silver sheen, a parasite plant, a pharma tree. Catfish clean, the plan stays silent. The dine is for free, no chlorophyll, no green parts, just translucent art. Little silver white bells, bruised purple crimson, touch of blood rushes to her crown. No pollination, no petals, no shade, only roots and leaf litter. Mycelium beneath, way down. She steals a sip from her stalk, shoots webs like a spider and glides. Sometimes it's okay to take the wild side. She's rooted yet chooses when to sit or drive. And still little silver bells where fairies ride. Top shelf canaries, yellow diamond, pinky rings. I thought I paid the piper, but his ghost still shadows me. Still seeking to become human, to become himself. Not a falsetto hymn, but a choice to find a voice that can combine. 528, just beyond C. Just beyond C.
Well, now that was certainly worth listening to. That adds a whole new kind of groove and layer to the right. Thank you very much, Lena, for the SoundCloud or the recording. It is very much appreciated. And just a reminder, everyone, if you're unable to call in, the next best thing is to make a recording of your poem, because then we get to hear your poetry in your voice or how you would like it to be heard. There is so many things I like about this. It is a great combination of hitting hard with intelligence. I really like, there's so many clever references. I really enjoy and appreciate the reference to Animal Farm and by George Orwell. And I have to be honest with the mention of act like hogs and cultured yet living like swine. I would have immediately thought of Animal Farm, even if she hadn't mentioned it. But I think it works to add it. Animal Farm sounds the alarm. And because I think that line is actually really important, because she's saying, here is a story that was written a long time ago that warns us, that warns us, about when we allow our behavior to our lack of values and morals to get out of control. This has really great word choice, amazing imagery and metaphors, a great flow to it. Like, there's not a consistent rhyming pattern, but I think that's part of what makes it work. I really like fear becomes narrative, shame the siren, blame the chain. Egregore, a putrid choir born from belief in a pious liar. I like how that speaks on hypocrisy, the idea of people who act like their shit doesn't stink. And what else here? But we both fell into the sticky trap, a trodden maze of mirrored bright rays, catching fire, trapped for days. That the idea of when we fill our egos with so much sweet talk, that basically we become embedded in our own traps. The ghost pipe fits the code. That actually made me think of, who is that? Is it Rene Magritte that did the painting "This Is Not a Pipe"? That's what this made. That line made me think of that. The idea that the sarcastic bite of this isn't a pipe. This is a painting of a pipe. And but I do wonder, because I know she says it twice, so I'm pretty sure it's not actually a reference to Rene Magritte's painting, but it's interesting. It's an interesting word choice, catfish clean. I feel like this is a combination of modern phrases and phrases that are more, take a look back in history. Like, catfishing, of course, makes me think of the idea of catfishers online who pretend to be something or someone they're not. Honestly, this feels like the idea of all the mistakes that humanity has made, and and they think that they've done what they had to. They paid. It feels like where I thought I paid the piper makes me think of the idea of people who go to church on Sunday, put money in the dish, and think that that's their way to heaven. That the rest of the week they don't have to worry about how they are or any time of the year. It feels like it speaks on hypocrisy. It feels like it speaks on the confusion of the human experience. One thing I'm very curious about this is the number 528, because I'm immediately going, okay, because I don't know a lot about the police codes that they call in. So I'm like, is 528 like a police code, or maybe an area, not it's an area code. It could be an area code.
No, I think it's referring to a certain frequency, 528 hertz, which is known to be like a healing frequency. It's said to have like healing properties.
Oh, you're right. There it is. Okay. Yes, ghost pipe. Oh, okay.
And
so she even explains a bit in her AN. That's really nice of her. I like that she does that. I try not to be honest. I appreciate ANs, but I try not to look at them until after I made my comment, only because no matter how wrong I am, I want my comment to be my thoughts. I want it to be my comment rather than influenced by the AN. Then, of course, I look at the AN because I want to see, what the poet themselves. But yeah, he's that. Ghost pipe became a metaphor for surviving outside the expected rules, while 528 hertz, just beyond C, represents finding your own voice rather than performing an assigned one. Interesting. I like that. It does add another layer. But it is interesting how the ghost pipe was a very important part of this, with being mentioned at least 3 times. And I like how it goes from speaking on society in general to saying specifically she. So it feels like the she is perhaps, Lena 61 herself, or someone that's being represented in the poem, someone who has stepped away from this hypocrisy of society. So excellent, right, and very well done.
Yeah, this was a really interesting work. The sound file was definitely a very different take. I enjoyed it. I thought it was I don't know. I loved the beat and the rhythm in the background to it. Very interesting, and as well as the like vocal linguistics. As for the piece, the botanic mystery, I think, is definitely a nod directly to the ghost pipe. Ghost pipe it's a parasitic plant. It doesn't have any like chlorophyll or anything like that. It doesn't get its energy from the sun. It actually gets its nutrients by parasitizing mycorrhizal fungi in the ground, which then pulls all the nutrients from the surrounding trees, roots, and plants and things like that. And yet it has these little bell-shaped flowers. So it looks like it's a plant like other plants, but it's not. It operates very rarely. Very rarely, I mean it's not a common type of plant. There's not a whole lot of these out there. Not just like this type of plant, the parasitic fungus, but also not a lot of ghost pipes in general. But it's a pretty unique system of getting nutrients. And to me, that for this piece is kind of indicating, since it goes back to that so many times, it's like it's okay to be like unusual or atypical. You don't have to behave like everyone else behaves. There are different ways to do things. We the people divided, mimicking divinity, like all kind of copycatting each other when we don't need to be, following all these rule books and yet not being good people, cultured yet living like swine, calling ourselves special, while pigs know enough to sink into the mud and simply be. Humanity definitely has an ego problem. It's so funny how we kind of other ourselves in a lot of ways. And we talk about like nature and animals, and it's like we are those things. And yet I think a lot of times when we refer to them, we aren't including ourselves in that equation. Make ourselves seem other or like above these systems, but we're not. And I think they talk about a lot of things, the religion, government, morality in general. Morality is kind of like a human invented thing, really. Animals much more rudimentary, like non-human. They aren't like codifying everything in the way that we are, that adds like this text on top of text. This oh god, there were definitely some lines in here that I'm kind of looking for now that I'm hunting. But yeah, we limit and judge each other and live poorly based on constructs that we don't need to. It's kind of what I take most of the front half of this to mean. And then you have like this they kind of talks about this honeymoon phase when it talks about a sticky trap, where you kind of fall into these traps because it feels good at first. And that could be contextualized as a relationship, but I think it's contextualized as a lot more than that. Religion, culture, ideas. The reason you subscribe to these things is because they feel good. I was still gnawing the lies we fed each other in our golden honey phase, but we both fell into the sticky trap, a trodden maze of mere bright rays catching fire, trapped for days. I don't think it's just about like a relationship there. I think it's about a lot of things, and how you get lured into something and then it's difficult to escape. And then it kind of is like, hey, there's other things we can do. Don't regret the storm, become the form. Look at the codex. The ghost pipe fits the code. So you have all these different ways that nature works and shapes it can take and forms it can take, and none of these are like right or wrong. You can be unique. The ghost pipe is an example of this. This is a very unusual life form that operates in a way that is outside of things that we'd consider, not greed, intent. And I think that has to do with the fact that it's parasitic. It is feeding off of other things, but you wouldn't call that, like, you wouldn't put a moral pinning on a plant. Like, you're evil for feeding yourself. It's not, it's outside of that kind of thing. There's so many things. If you look at things in a larger context, fungus life, a flower of life and death, again, it's parasitic. And yet that's how it lives, and that's how it functions and stays alive. This kind of thing. I did find this line kind of funny. It dines for free. That depends on who you ask, right? I mean, I think the mycorrhizae might disagree with that, and the surrounding plants might have some issues with what is free. But it's not pulling stuff from the sun, you know. So it's a very delicate plant.
Oh my gosh, so true.
So, there's just a lot of interesting ways to look at this, but I think it's about like breaking free of constructs. I do agree with you about AN. I like it, do what you want to do as an author. That's your prerogative. And, this is certainly not like I'm not telling anybody what to do. But my
Right.
preference as a writer and as a reader is for AN to be like, if you reference something obscure that people might not know, that's a great place to tell them what that reference is. I don't necessarily love it when they're like, and this is what my poem means. And I guess my reasoning for that is I feel like art, as someone who writes and someone who draws and paints, once I give that to other people for their interpretation, I don't feel like anyone's interpretation is wrong. They just have a different relationship with it than I necessarily do. And if I tell them exactly what I meant by it, then they don't get to have that personal relationship with it or that personal insights, because there's a tendency to just adapt what I meant, like, because I am author, I am God. And if I did a poor job in conveying what I was trying to say and it's not interpreted that way, I want to know that, because that's the opportunity for me to grow as a communicator and a writer. But also, nobody's opinion is wrong. If I wrote a poem that was supposed to make someone feel happy and instead made them like super angry, that's valid. If that's what's that's the emotional response that you get, it's not wrong. That's just me and my take on footnotes. For me, footnotes are a good place to put like what inspired the poem. What strange references did I put in here that you may not immediately get because you maybe didn't read every book that I've ever read. Those kinds of things.
That's good point. Yeah.
If I want to dedicate it to someone, that's a good place to do it. That kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, great comment there. It's funny because I have seen those ghost pipe plants before, but I actually did not know what they were called. And I'm chuckling to myself because, as I'm going on about Magritte's pipe, I'm like, I could just hear you thinking, I can't wait until it's my turn to comment.
Well, I was sitting over here and I almost interrupted you a couple times, but I'm just like, no, because same thing. Like, I want to hear what your thoughts eventually are. Yeah.
Well, like you said, I mean, granted, technically I was wrong, but that's the thing with poetry. Every interpretation is going to be, interpretations are based on your knowledge. And in that case, my knowledge was very limited. I could have talked about my grandfather and his pipe smoking, but somehow that just didn't quite seem like it didn't have the nostalgia vibe to it that would bring me to my grandfather.
It's about smoking crack in the woods, Pam. You didn't get that?
Yes.
No. No.
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my gosh. So I'm gonna put up I put up the next poem, which is another one with a sound cloud, and it is called Ire, Mire, or Satire by Eric Svensson. And I just need to step away for a little bit, Babbler. So if you don't hear my voice after it ends or see me say I'm back in the chat, just go ahead and start commenting.
Sounds good.
Well, actually, just go ahead and start commenting because,
Yeah,
I think it's your turn to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're good.
All right. So I'm gonna go hit play, and here we go.
Ire, mire, or satire. Gurney placement. A poet, priest, prostitute, and politician. Mr. Mortician, please enlighten. Can you tell from the cadavers which is which? What I can tell you is each cadaver weighs 21 grams less after its silver cord snapped. How come? No, they didn't come. Their souls left. Each one weighed 21 grams. So their physical form on earth did not hinder the departure of their soul after death. Podium placed, illustrious soapbox moment, majestic magnum opus scientific finding. Mr. Mortician, please enlighten. My computer contains an AI virus. It identifies soul as a cliché word, snapped silver cord as a contrived conundrum. Mr. Mortician and Mr. Magician decide to play devil's advocate for a spill. Let's kill this AI virus and see if it weighs 21 grams less. End poem.
Well, I really enjoyed this quite a bit. First of all, I find it phonetically very satisfying. There's a lot of alliteration in here. A lot of ways that make the word flow really well. First there's just the title, right? Ire, mire, satire. All kind of they all rhyme. And then Mr. Mortician, please enlighten, politician, mortician. It flows very well. The word choice, I think, is just very well done in this piece. And then you've got this setup where they talk about a poet, a priest, a prostitute, and a politician. There being that repeated P sound. But then just the concept of you can't really tell them apart. Also, in addition to not being able to tell them apart, I laughed a little bit because you've got poet, priest, prostitute, and politician, but there's no comma after prostitute. Which to me implies that one of the persons was a priest, one was a poet, and the other one was both a prostitute and a politician. Not sure if that's intentional or not, but the comma usage did give me a little internal chuckle. So I'm getting it went away. I'm like, I can hear myself. Speaking, hard to talk. And then can you tell which is which? And they say, well, not really, but each one weighs 21 grams less after its silver cord is snapped, meaning once somebody dies, 21 grams go missing, which is not even an ounce. It's 3/4 of an ounce. And some have theorized that is the weight of a soul. The loss of life. 21 grams dissipates from the human body. And so the idea is that that's the soul leaving the body. And so they have this big hubbub about it. Podium place, illustrious soapbox moment, majestic magnum opus, scientific finding. Like, this is a BFD. Hey, we have found the weight of a soul. And then he takes it, and this is where it gets like more satirical, right? Is hey, there's this AI in my computer, Mr. Mortician. And it's really annoying. Like, so for those of you who maybe are not on all poetry and don't write poetry here, there's kind of a grader built into poems that's kind of meant to help guide the poets here to write more creatively and to avoid cliches and overused words and other things, and kind of rate 2 out of 10 points. And I'll say some of my favorite poems that I've personally ever written rank extremely low on this AI grader. This AI grader thinks that sometimes I am a crap poet. But you can't really listen to it all the time. You gotta use your brain here. Because as this says in this piece, it identifies soul as a cliche word. So you will get deducted for using soul because it's overused. But you can say snapped silver cord, but you're saying really the same thing. It's just making you find words to write around it if you're trying to get a high score via this grader. Which I personally don't really care about. I ignore that grader all the time. So it's just kind of funny because it's just saying like, hey, there's this AI thing that is saying that soul is a cliche word that you shouldn't use and you should talk around it, implying kind of that it's soulless, right? That it doesn't want a soul. And so Mr. Mortician and Mr. Magician decide to play devil's advocate for a spell. Let's kill this AI virus and see if it weighs 20 grams less. So let's turn the whole thing off. Let's get rid of AI and see if things are 21 grams lighter. See if AI had a soul. But to me, it feels a little bit like the idea of drowning a witch, right? Like if you take the witch and you tie something to her leg, if she drowns, she wasn't a witch. And if she floats, she's a witch and you should kill her. Because if you turned the AI off to see if it had a soul or not, either way, it's gone. So you've killed the witch, so to speak. And if the 21 grams disappeared, oh, it had a soul. But the point's kind of moot if the AI is gone. So that's kind of the twist I get out of this. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. The turn, the kind of start out that almost sounds like a setup for a joke with the poet, priest, prostitute, and politician, and the fact that all of them have a soul, and that their form on earth did not hinder the departure of their souls after death, meaning all their souls are gone, which would make sense. I mean, if you believe in a soul, or especially if you believe in like a Christian faith or something, they say you go one place or another, you aren't just stuck to the body. So, and then let's see if AI does, but in order to determine that, you have to kill it first, which is fun. And poking the fact that it really doesn't want you to say the word soul. It also dislikes words. I think the cry is one that it hates. Heart. It hates heart. So it doesn't have tears, a heart, or a soul. I say kill it. Let's see what happens. Anyone got a scale? So that's my take on this. I don't know if Pam is back or not.
I actually am, yes. I do apologize for that feedback moment. I should have taken my phone with me, and I didn't. And so then the when I use my Kindle Fire, the name or whatever you call it, the profile I use on my Kindle Fire comes on sometimes just automatically without me bringing it on, and that causes feedback because it shows me as being on twice. But yeah, I was listening to your comment and I thought it was great. I mean, and this poem, there's just so many clever lines throughout. I really do like how the line, a poet, priest, prostitute, and politician. It does feel like the setup for a joke. And Mr. Mortician, please enlighten us. Can you tell from the cadavers which is which? Well, I will say that most likely the priest is going to be male. That I could tell. You know, the other three, it's hit or miss. You know, prostitute most likely female, but still, I like the point that he's making with that is the idea that once our clothes are off, you know, and we're just laying there equally, you know, all our souls have left our bodies, you know, we're all, you know, gone on over to the other side, just like, you know, the Doors say, that there is no difference, you know, and I feel like that leading into what I can tell you is each cadaver weighs 21 grams less after its silver cord snapped, and the idea that it doesn't matter what your life was, what choices you made in it, what mistakes you made, or even what good things you did. There isn't, you know, like doing so many good deeds doesn't fatten up your soul. It's a sense of a spiritual equality. And I do like the bite and the way this hits so hard at AI. And, you know, like I think there are fun uses for AI, but for the most part, I feel like it is the bane of creativity. And I do like how, you know, Eric does say, you know, let's put it up for trial. You know, let's go ahead, let's kill this virus, and you know what? If it weighs 21 grams less, well, oops, we were wrong. But I like that has that kind of confidence, to say, you know what? I'm so sure that I am not wrong, that I will strike the first blow. But wonderful imagery and metaphors, great lines throughout. Definitely an excellent write. Looking at the idea of a society that's hung up on trying to replace life with as much artificiality as possible. This is an excellent write and very well done. And this has been a great show tonight. Thank you, Babbler, for co-hosting with me. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to everyone who wrote for the show, is listening now, or will be listening later. We really appreciate you both. Please make sure to keep an eye out on the contests and topic boards put up by our late night poets, hosts and hostesses, because you're sure to find something to inspire. And have a good night, everyone. Have a good night, Babbler.
Night. Thanks for having me.